Yeah.
There you go.
Welcome to Trey Show 9, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We have a special guest on the show today. It is my friend, Jerrell Sarmiento, the Filipino from California, and
Oh
now
man,
lives now lives in where do you live? Colorado? What part of
live
Colorado?
in Colorado. I live in Monument, Colorado. It's basically
Monument.
Colorado Springs, about an hour away from Denver.
He's lying. No, he doesn't. This guy can never live in the snow. He is a sunny beach guy. Don't believe anything he says. Just kidding. Um,
Bro, it
we
snowed 2 feet
2 feet?
yesterday. It was 2 feet of snow, man. 24 inches
Oh my
where I live. So
gosh.
we had 2 snow days. Couldn't come into work. And
Oh
it's
man.
crazy.
What are those like? Like do you just like yay, no work or you just have to work from home?
I got to work from home. I have a staff of 9 people that they need to come in to do their work, but
Oh, okay.
when it snows like this, they get to stay home and I get to work just a little bit. Staying at home and working though isn't
Right.
very much work, so it's
So wait a
nice.
minute. You just let that one slide real easy right by. You have nine, so you're the supervisor or some sort of a director? What is going on here? You got nine people that you
Yeah,
support? Tell me about that.
yeah. So I work at Compassion International.
Whoop, whoop.
You didn't know? Yeah, man. We are a child advocate network. Our whole mission is to release children from poverty in Jesus' name. And I've been working for them for over 7 years now, different types of jobs, different departments, and it's been great. Right now, I work with the digital print team, and for us, we
Hmm.
work with marketing, digital production, um, and we
Hmm.
basically make projects, campaigns come to life. We
Oh,
print them, we create them, we stock them, we ship them, and I have 9 people that work under me that makes that happen. So yeah, it's pretty
wow.
cool.
That is cool. So being a supervisor to a supervisor, someone who's leading people, you don't need to get all negative, but like how what are some of the challenges and what are some of the victories that you go through with your staff and trying to push this massive like this thing that you guys are doing, right? Because this is compassion is like right there I'm already sold. And I've been there and I've been sold when I was there. And so yeah, but what is it like as a supervisor? Like what's some of the challenges that you see?
Yeah, for sure. On my team, we're multi-generational. You know what I mean? So we
That's
have
cool.
a young, like 22-year-old, all the way to a 70-year-old, multi-generational, and I get to lead them. And sometimes when you're a younger person in charge of a group of people that have been here for a long time, been doing it
Mm,
for a long time, have their ways set in their ways,
yeah.
it could be difficult when somebody comes in and tries to tell you what to do and how to do it. But luckily, with my team, the atmosphere here, um, it's pretty easy to get along, right? We're not here to get rich. We're not here to make tons and tons of money. We're obviously trying to live, but our whole mission and our whole goal is to help children, to help family, make sure they get what they need, make sure we get sponsors and donors and people who are like-minded to support the cause. And I've been on the other side. I've been on the field. I've been in Africa, and I've seen what it's like when children get the support. And so,
Mm,
whenever we have an issue, whenever we have a problem, we think about the end goal. We think about who we're serving and who we're
mm,
trying to release from poverty. And it's like,
mm,
oh man, back on board. This isn't something worth dying on this hill for. If we can get along, if we can figure out what's going on together, then more children get released from poverty, more children and families get help. So it's not super hard here. That's one of the benefits of working with compassion and like-minded people.
yeah.
But it's good, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that, you know, thinking about the poverty of children and the abuse and there's so much going on with children. Um,
Right.
we as adults, we as humans need to protect them at all costs. And I can just imagine, right? Compassion, um, they do a lot, yet is it enough? You know what I mean? Like, is it like reaching? You know what I mean? There's like billions and trillions of people. You know what I mean? So, if anybody's listening, right, and you feel moved to donate or contribute or whatever it is, monetarily, financially, like, do that. You know what I mean? That's awesome, and it checks my spirit
Yes,
and my
please.
heart because, like, you know, I've been there. I've been to Compassion, the headquarters in Colorado, and like, you know me, like, I couldn't stop crying. Like, I mean, I'm gonna cry right now. It's like it was just so powerful, right? And I had a guy on the show who was or is um he's an advocate, a massive advocate for child trafficking
Mm,
and teaching people and making people aware of things that they need to be aware of in the public and when they're out and about with their families and things that they can do, subtle things that they can do, even in that, right? It's crazy, right? Going to India, seeing children just roaming the streets, following the dogs for food, you know, because the dog will sniff out the food and then they can go and find it. And so so that's that. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do. And for me, sometimes I get overwhelmed because I'm like, there's so much we should do. We could be doing so much more, you know. But I believe that in 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 our walk, in our journey of life, it's possible, right? It's possible to do something if everyone does something, right? So with that said, you're working, you're creative, you have a family, and it's a beautiful family. It's a new family.
yeah.
It's an amazing family. Um, yeah, I mean, tell us about being a father in terms of you're a new father again for the third time recently.
Yeah, number
How does
three, man.
how is that going? What's up with that? How's that going?
Uh, that's an interesting story. I've been telling this little girl story for a month now. She's about a month old, uh,
Mm,
but it's life changing.
mm-hmm.
And I don't say that lightly just because I'm having kids. Life changing. I mean, we all know that's life changing.
Yeah.
But in her story, in particular, her name is Sosima Joy, last name Sarmiento. Sosima is actually my mom's name. Joy is my wife's mom's middle name. So, in honor of both of our mothers, we named her
Mm,
Sosima Joy. Yeah, and
wow.
Sosima in the Greek means beauty and order,
Mm-hmm.
and you tag that along with Joy. That's her, and she has a bright future, a hope ahead of her that I'm really excited for.
Yeah.
But when she was born, man, she had the cord wrapped around her neck a couple of times,
Mm,
and this is our third kid, like Mark said, and we were supposed to have her at a birth center. Rachel wanted her third time to be a little different. She wanted to do it natural. She didn't want any drugs. She didn't want to be at a hospital.
mm,
She didn't want to be, tied up to all these machineries. So
yeah.
we've been working with a doula and a midwife.
Nice.
Incredible experience. I talk
Nice.
about being an advocate for children in poverty. I'm also an advocate for these people, these women who are studied, who are incredible, who are passionate about birthing and
Mm,
just the woman in general, how their bodies work, what their bodies were made to do, how powerful and strong their bodies can be. These women are all about that, and they empower other women to
mm.
understand and make things happen. So they are awesome. If you are thinking about having a baby, you don't want to go the hospital route. Doulas and midwives are the
Do
way to
it.
go. Check them out.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
did it.
Yes. Anyway, so we were at the birth center. Things were going great. Rachel was getting in the tub. She was breathing. Everything that
Mm,
we were expecting, right? And then just out of nowhere, you could see it in the doulas and midwives' eyes and their face that there was a problem. The baby's heart rate, Sosima's heart rate dropped, And all of a sudden, what we thought was going to be this peaceful experience
Mm.
turned into an emergency. So from there, we took an ambulance from the birth center to the hospital, and thank God it was only about 2 miles away. We get there, and in the emergency room, there's about 20 people in there working on Rachel, working on baby. Baby
Wow.
comes out to umbilical cord wrapped around her neck. She's not breathing. And when I tell you, Mark, one of the most darkest, scariest moments of our lives.
Mm.
And I just felt helpless. I felt powerless. I felt like I couldn't do anything. She came out and she wasn't crying. She wasn't moving.
Mm.
She was just lifeless. And the words that I heard just almost dropped. But they said, she's not breathing. We can't find a heartbeat. And all I could do was call out on the name of Jesus, man. Like
Yeah.
that's all I could do.
Right.
My faith kicked in like it's never kicked in before. At the same time, feeling weak and helpless. This is all I could do was to call on Jesus and to really will her back to life. Um, and I don't know how long it was between when they said that and she was born, but eventually they found a heartbeat. She
Okay.
wasn't breathing on her own, so they connected to her to some machinery and they moved her away. Rachel, they were still working on her at the
Mm.
same time. It was like a gurney with Rachel and then like gurney for the baby. And I was in the middle with like 20 people around us. And
Wow.
so once baby came, they moved her to another room. I left Rachel. And just to make this long story short, um, they were saying, when a baby goes this long without oxygen,
Yeah.
um, brain damage, seizures, development, all of that percentages drop. And this is the things you're going to go through. And if she makes it, this is the things you're going to go through.
Okay.
And so everything was like touch and go.
Mm.
She was connected to a bunch of machinery on so many medication and drugs. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't eat. Um, we were in the NICU for about 2 weeks.
Mm.
And yeah, just also, advocate might be the word of the day here, but man, those nurses, those doctors, those people, they're heroes, man.
Yeah.
We need those types of people in society around the world who care and love so much so that they will take their expertise, their knowledge, and give it everything they have to somebody who is holding on to life. It's incredible to me. Long story short, man, she was up for her MRI, and every day she was just getting better. When her MRI results came back, her MRI results came back as normal
Yeah.
with no brain damage,
Yes.
with no signs of abnormalities.
Yeah.
And by the end of the 2 weeks, man, she was eating on her own, breathing on her own, didn't need any more seizure medication, didn't need any more drugs to keep her alive. And a month later, she is good.
That's awesome.
She literally is our miracle baby. And I'm just so beyond humbled and grateful for what God did, how He answered our prayers, and not just my prayers and Rachel's prayers, but man, there were so many people praying for this little girl. God heard us, and
Mm.
just to see Him come through like that, you hear about miracles, you pray for miracles, and when it happens to you, man, it like I said, we're changed people. It changed our lives forever. So
Mm.
yeah, that's our current journey. That's our baby
Yeah.
girl, and yeah, we're excited.
Yeah. That it's a beautiful story. It's a scary story. It's you're in that position and you hear that and it's almost like I can't even talk. I can't even swallow. I can't like am I alive? Did time stop? And you're just like, "Whoa." You just said that and it's amazing how your faith kicks in. It's like a it's like you're it's automatic. You didn't
Right.
you didn't go like, "Oh, let me turn this on now." Let me physically go turn this on and like, oh, let me try this, let me try that. Like I don't know your situation. I mean, I wasn't there in your situation, but I was in a similar situation, and that feeling though, that feeling of hopelessness for just a second, you're like, wait, what? and then it's like click, and you're like the scripture is like they like walk out of the Bible literally, and then they come stand, and then they come hold you, and they come do all these things. That's what I saw in my situation, and like it forever changed me. It forever changed me, right? And as a father, as parents, I mean, I even had thoughts of like, oh, I don't know if I want to be a parent anymore. This is crazy. Like, can I handle this?
Mm,
Can I handle this? Like, this is a lot of like, I can't do this on my own. There's no way. It's like I can't even do this. It's like I can't even do this with Tamra. Like, I need like something else. You know what I mean? Because whatever kicked in at that moment, like walking down the hall. I remember walking down the hall to Tamra's bedside. I was just like, what? And the nurses, let's talk about the nurses and the doctors that are in the NICU. Like I remember, I guess I remember I was preaching to them. When they told me the bad news, I just started preaching. I didn't even know what I was saying. I was crying. Everyone was crying. Everyone was standing around,
mm.
and I was like, oh man, I think I just told someone they need to get their life right. You know what I mean? I'm like pointing at them and everything, and I'm like, what am I doing? I had no clue. It just kicked in, and so as a dad, I think it's innate in us. It's something in us that we want to like have that control because we want to save, right? Because
Right.
it's like our heavenly Father is like given if we are the person who received this gift also like we can't save people but we want to, right? We want to do this, and so that's awesome, bro. um I say it's awesome because you guys, you and Rachel will always be changed. There's your level of like, you know, hurrah is on level like 1,000, you know, and so cool, man. Wow.
Yeah, if you're watching this today and you don't
Mm.
know who I am and my relationship to this man who is also on here and on this show, uh, yeah, Mark and his wife Tamara have been mentors really to Rachel and myself. We, as a young couple, watched them uh, in their first season of marriage and go through some stuff.
Yeah.
I watched Mark go through some stuff even before he got married, and Rachel and I, and me specifically, have always been inspired. Mark, you've always inspired me when I have an opportunity to hear Mark speak, or when he has a nugget of advice, something from his past. I know
Yeah.
it's golden because it's real, it's
Yeah.
authentic, and he lives it out. His family lives it out, and I so appreciate that. So being on here, if you watch me just intently looking at the screen, is because I'm getting something from this. I'm getting something from Mark, as I always do. Man, I appreciate you. And as you were talking um, about that situation, man, I remember not understanding that. Man, I was like in my early 20s, and watching you and Tamara go through that, it hurt,
Mm.
and I didn't understand it. I couldn't even comprehend how to go through that. What you were going through, all I remember is praying for you, giving you space,
Yeah.
and trying to be there for you. And at the time, you guys, Mark was a leader in the church. Mark was a minister that many people went to, and to see that hurt, but also to see the triumph.
Yeah.
I remember at the service, man, we played
Mm.
this song. What was it? Something in the sanctuary. We'll praise you in the sanctuary,
Yeah. Yeah.
from something car. Yeah, I remember. So Mark and I was sitting in the second row. Mark and Tamara and his family were sitting in the front row, and
Yeah.
we were all sitting right. But Mark and Tamara stood up, and then we stood up, and then everybody stood up, and it was this moment of, even though it was tragic and it
Yeah.
hurt, we praised the one who had her in his
Yeah.
hands in that moment, where she
Yeah.
wasn't suffering, she wasn't hurting, but she was alive in Jesus. And Mark, I remember you saying in a previous video on your Instagram how it changed you and it empowered you,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what happened. And I think that's still happening today for you and your family.
Yeah, for sure. The echo and the ripple effects, the things that we go through as parents and as humans, um, they do echo. They do ripple.
Yeah,
And so as Jerrell as a father, so father and husband, um, society is I don't know. I keep tabs on everything. And so I have subscribed to, well, not necessarily, yeah, subscribed to different YouTube channels that are pretty vile and disgusting in terms of the topics and where society is at. Um, and here's how I work. So I get to a point where I consume and then I try to dissect, and then I get to a point where it's like I can't watch this anymore because it's just like, all right, I got the information that I need, right? It actually hasn't changed, right? And so as a father and as a husband, like what is it that keeps you and Rachel together, right? What is it that what are some of the elements? What are some of the secrets? What are some of the things that truly keep you guys together and moving forward and in joy and happiness? And then when challenges come, how do you get out of that? You know? Talk to us about that. You don't
yeah,
need to go in detail, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like he's always gonna make his wife look good. Always.
yeah. Something that it might sound a little corny to you, but I think about when we were first together, we had the saying. So when I met Rachel in Texas, right? We went out to a ministry school, ministry training school out there for a year to get equipped, and then we were released to do ministry. Met her out there. Uh, we were early 20s. Rachel had just turned 20, I think. I was 21, and we came back to California to do youth ministry together, right? To do youth ministry with you, Mark.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
Yes,
our whole
sir.
goal, and we were in love, and we quickly realized that we wanted to spend our lives together.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we said to each other that I said might sound corny to you is that we would always say it's me and you against the world,
Mm.
me and you against the world, and that just stuck. And it's not like we say it to each other. Any nowadays, we used to say it to each other when we were first together, but now that's developed into our lifestyle. It's me and her always in everything. We have each other's back. At the end of the day, we both know that we have each other's best interest in heart, in mind, that we're for each other. Even when we fight, the first thing in the front of our head, whatever the situation or circumstances that we're fighting about, we always know that we're for each other,
Yeah.
and that's never going to change. And that's what we write on. My parents, they used to do this thing. They used to never fight in front of us as kids, right? But they would things would bubble up sometime, and you could tell they were getting agitated at each
Yeah.
other. And then my dad like bust out a joke. He would make a joke of what for sure I knew they were mad at each other about, and
Yeah.
then my mom would laugh, and then my mom would hit him with a joke, and they were both laughing. And as
Oh,
kids, we were like
wow.
super confused, right? But
Yeah.
as we got older, we realized, they were trying their best not to fight in front of us, but
Mm.
at the same time, they knew they were going to take care of it later.
Right.
And I love that. And we've also kind of implemented that in our lives as well. Try not to fight in front of the kids.
Yeah.
If you do, make it light and go back to it when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
We try to not fight in public because that's not cool either.
Yeah.
Um, but we bring each other to a place where we can find understanding and where we
Mm.
could really travail in love, right? That's what we want to do.
I like that. I like that understanding. It's creating that space for each other. That understanding of this is who um this is who we are. and we're going to take these different life lessons that our parents taught us, principles that are in the Bible, things that we have grown with each other, and we're going to bring
Mhm.
this understanding. I was talking about to my kids understanding and what that means, and I always think of understanding like exactly what it says and how it is. It's understanding. You're under something that is massive, like a tower or a building, and you're understanding it because you can understand how these pillars are uh basically holding this massive structure, right? And that's our marriage, right? That's our family, is this huge structure, right? And it's understanding of I have to understand everything. I have to like, well, how does this work? How does this roller coaster work? Like, how, tell me about the law of gravity, tell me about this and that, because seriously, like my first roller coaster, I was like, well, how does it work? How is it stopping? How, I want to see the brakes, I want to see, you know what I mean? And I literally would roam this roller coaster trying to figure out how it worked. And I would watch like videos, I would ask questions, I would ask my teacher, because I wasn't getting on this thing unless I understood a basic of this thing. And so I love that how you say you move with that understanding, you create that space for each other, and you understand each other, you understand that you guys love each other, you guys
Yeah, for
understand
sure.
that it's not us against each other, we're not against each other. And I think a lot of couples nowadays, from what I'm watching, it's like this battle between men and women, and it's like this has got to, I have music going on in the background, what the heck, how is this happening?
I don't hear it, so if you're
You don't hear
wondering.
it? Oh, okay. Because I was like, it was a
I just hear
commercial.
you.
All right, good. Sorry. Um, and so
One other thing, Mark.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
Um, you know, you talked about understanding and pillars. Um, I heard this thing about marriage, and it stuck out to me, super powerful to me. But I heard somebody saying marriage is a union of two forgivers, and
Mm,
the idea of forgiving was, when I met Rachel, was super foreign to me. Forgiving in my household was, if you did something wrong, you just don't do it again. You
mm,
don't talk about it. You don't bring it up. You just do better. But as
mm,
a young person and not being able to talk things out, that was so hard to contain. That was so hard to understand. I just tried not to mess up because I didn't want to. And when I did, something bad happened. There was
mm,
consequences. But
mm,
when it came to marriage, all of a sudden, this idea of forgiving one another and a union of two forgivers, I actually learned that from Rachel, my wife, because she and her family, they're all about forgiving. When the littlest things, the littlest of the biggest things, it was always, do you forgive me? Do you forgive me? Do you forgive me? And when Rachel and I were first married, she'd do something and she'd ask for my forgiveness, and it'd be so weird to me. I'd be like, I don't want to talk about it. Of course I forgive you. It's over. But she had to hear those words from me. She had to hear, I
mm.
forgive you, because it's a process. It's a way to live. It's important to us in our marriage that we always forgive each other. We come to a point of forgiveness. And dude, that's helped me out so much. Instead of sweeping forgiveness under the rug and not looking at it as something that's needed, required, or important, I see it now as kind of the forefront and the forerunner of our marriage.
That's powerful. That's powerful. What we're gonna do now is we're going to. I'm at the 40. We're gonna take a break. I'm gonna have to put these two things together, and then because I like that last piece. That last piece, with your permission, I want to put that on Instagram. Um,
Yeah, for sure, man.
let me see if I can do this. All right, just give me just one moment here while
This is
I.
fun, by the way, man. I miss you. This is
Yeah,
so
I know,
good. It's
bro.
I love this.
Okay, so I have a confession. I was like, okay, oh, what if you were my co-host and we just did it once a month, just once a month, so it's not too much pressure. I know we're busy. I know you're busy. And I know you travel, and I know you got a lot of stuff going on. This man is a head of a church, and he works at Compassion, and he has a family. I mean, that's just like some of the things, right? And so that's kind of like I was like, I can't lie. That's one of my asks. Could you?
Yeah.
Because I'm like so emotional right now. Like I'm so emotional. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel like a little kid. I feel like a little girl. Like, all right, let me.
You don't know how much that makes me feel honored. Really, I feel
Let's
like
do it.
most of our conversations we've ever had, Mark, from like in your from your Cadillac to
Oh
the
my
cabin
gosh.
in like
Oh
Tahoe
my gosh, man.
to to the random places we found ourselves.
Mm,
Um, those those conversations were so enriching to
mm,
me, and I do hold them dear to my heart. And if I can help you in this
yes.
and your really your passion for for the relationships and the
Yeah.
family, which really, man, also is my heart.
Yeah.
I see my wife and my kids. That's the highest honor I have
Yes.
on this earth. And if I could share that with others
Yeah.
and learn other ways to be better and do better, I'm all
Yeah.
about it.
It's interesting you say that because it's the highest honor. It's so funny, like being in the YouTube space, and seeing what's out there. It's we are the one percenters, right?
Mm,
We are the one percenters because everyone that's on there, that's they're what they're doing is they're promoting this like this this crazy version, perverted version of I, families don't really matter, marriage doesn't really matter, and I get that. I understand that. I understand why they would say that. I understand why people would do that. Being counseling folks and hearing their story, sometimes when I hear those stories, I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't want to get married either or have kids either because of what you went through, especially without any knowledge of healing and any understanding of that you can be healed from this and you can recover from this and you can live a different life. And there's still people out there that don't know that, which is
mm,
crazy. And I am one who has I put myself in a lot of positions that were very negative, because that's how I learned. That's just how I learned. Like when I wanted to learn about Jehovah's Witness, I like dove into the Kingdom Hall. I head first. I was like and dove into it. And against like everyone that I talked to was like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I was like, yeah, but I'm that person that's like, let's go, we want to know about war, we want to know about somebody, let's dive into that person and know everything about that person, right? And I that's intimacy, because I did the same thing with him. I became friends with one of the guys and I asked him all the questions that everybody always had. And so with this relationship, and specifically where Tracial 9 has gone through a journey. It's gone through like angry journey. You can hear, and I'm not deleting any of my podcasts. I probably will one of these days. I'm like, I don't want anyone to hear this. But it was my journey. I like
yeah.
said everything. I gave it all, man. I gave it all. And it's like if my mom was like, okay, Mark, so it's kind of good, but but you on this one episode, you're like really cussing. And I'm like, that's just where I was at that time. And I
Yeah.
don't apologize for it. I probably wouldn't do I'm not going to repeat that, but it's just where I was at that time. And that's kind of how I kind of move. And so watching you uh right now, I think there's a maturity on your life. There's a calling on your life that I remember all the conversations and it's like you're there. Everything that you've talked about, I feel like you're there.